this ghetto thug, DiJonai Carrington on your screen, she cannot play another WNBA game ever again. This ghetto thug you see on your screen, DiJonai Carrington, posted white privilege and tagged the Indiana Fever after she got ejected after raking Sophie Cunningham across the head. When you can literally injure yourself and get injured in multiple ways, DiJonai Carrington raked Sophie Cunningham across the head. It got reviewed by the officials. They ended up and deemed it as a flagrant foul too and ejected her from the game.
Hello, and welcome back to the Clark Update. Today, I'm back with another big and exciting WNBA story. Something happened on the WNBA court today that immediately grabbed everyone's attention. During the Sky versus Fever matchup, a moment unfolded that has fans talking. So, what exactly happened? Without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into the video. First, watch this video clip, and after that, let's move on.
He was an absolute steal for DiJonai Carrington. Here's Cunningham up ahead of the field, lays it in, plus the foul, and then Cunningham gets into the face of DiJonai Carrington.
One play. That was all it took to turn an already intense WNBA matchup into another major controversy. Sophie Cunningham was attacking the basket on a fast break when DiJonai Carrington came from behind and made eye contact with her. Cunningham went down, and Carrington was ejected. After the officials reviewed the play, the call was upgraded to a flagrant 2, ending Carrington's night almost immediately. But that wasn't where the controversy ended. After leaving the court, Carrington took the conversation somewhere completely different.
This going on in the W.
Hold on.
Take a walk with me, take a walk with me, take a walk with me. There is craziness going on in the WNBA. DiJonai Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this. She fouls Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury.
She posted a message on social media accusing the situation of being about white privilege. Suddenly, what had started as a basketball play became a much bigger argument involving race, officiating, player treatment, social media, and the growing tension surrounding Sophie Cunningham. But here's where things get interesting. Was this simply an emotional reaction after a frustrating ejection? Was Carrington trying to make a larger point about how players are treated? Or did the social media response make an already controversial moment even harder to defend? And what exactly happened between Carrington and Cunningham on that court? Let's break the entire situation down.
So Carrington is a dirty player, probably the dirtiest player in the league. And then she has the audacity to go online right after her ejection and claim that she got ejected because of racism. She definitely learned well from Angel Reese. Whenever something goes against you, just pull out that race card. I think she's jealous of my natural blonde hair. She'll never have this hair. I literally got clotheslined in the air, and this clown has to turn it into race.
Was it simply an aggressive basketball play? Did the contact cross the line? Could Carrington face additional disciplinary action from the league? And perhaps the biggest question of all, could this incident actually affect her future in the WNBA? But before jumping to conclusions, there is something very important you need to know. Following this incident, DiJonai Carrington has been suspended by the WNBA. Cunningham wasn't exactly going to pretend nothing happened. After the contact, she confronted Carrington, and teammates and staff stepped in before the situation could escalate further. But what was particularly interesting was Cunningham's attitude afterward. She described the foul as unnecessary, but at the same time, she didn't appear interested in turning the incident into something even bigger than it already was. And that matters, because in professional sports, emotions can explode in seconds. One player feels disrespected, another feels unfairly targeted, a referee makes a decision, fans choose sides, and suddenly everyone is arguing about something that happened in less than 2 seconds. Cunningham's response was essentially that she wasn't going to allow the incident to take over everything. But online, that was a completely different story.
These types of kind of dirty fouls, so to speak, this is the same player that poked Caitlin Clark in the eye with her long-ass fingernails last year. Take a look.
This clip is going viral of Caitlin Clark getting poked in the eye by DiJonai Carrington. It happened in the first quarter when Clark tried passing the ball to her teammate Aaliyah Boston, but Carrington poked Clark in the eye while trying to deflect the pass. No foul was called, but Clark had to take a second to regain her composure. In the third quarter, DiJonai was defending Caitlin again when Caitlin hit DiJonai in the head, knocking out one of her contacts. No foul was called, but DiJonai had to take a second to put her contact back in.
Here's another important point. DiJonai Carrington has previously been involved in several hard and controversial moments involving Caitlin Clark, and now this flagrant 2 foul on Sophie Cunningham has once again raised serious questions. Many WNBA fans are demanding that players who repeatedly engage in dangerous or overly physical play should face stronger disciplinary action, especially when it puts women's basketball and its star players at risk. Some commentators have also called for Carrington to be suspended. Now the question is whether the WNBA will take strong action against Carrington or whether this controversy will eventually fade away. After being ejected, Carrington later posted, "White privilege at Indiana Fever," and that single post immediately changed the conversation. People were no longer just debating whether the foul was intentional. They were debating whether race played a role in the decision. But this is where we need to slow down, because there is a huge difference between saying Carrington posted this and saying the officials ejected her because of race. The first is documented, while the second has not been established. In fact, Cunningham herself rejected the suggestion that the call was racially motivated, pointing out that she had previously been ejected for a similar type of play. That does not automatically settle every debate about officiating, but it makes the situation more complicated than simply saying the league punished Carrington because Cunningham is white. There is no evidence establishing that. And that's important because social media often turns an argument into a conclusion before all the facts are on the table. The internet quickly became divided, with some fans arguing that Carrington committed the foul, got ejected, and then blamed everyone else, while others believe she was expressing frustration over what she saw as unequal treatment. Those are two very different interpretations, and neither should automatically be treated as established fact. Calling someone a victim can itself become part of the problem because we don't actually know everything that was happening emotionally for Carrington in that moment. She had just been ejected from a high-profile game, watched the play get upgraded after replay, and was leaving the court while the crowd reacted before making an emotionally charged post. Athletes are human. They react, they get frustrated, and sometimes they say things they might phrase differently later. But being emotional doesn't automatically make someone right, and being wrong about something doesn't automatically mean every feeling behind it was fake. That's the nuance social media usually removes. Now, let's address another part of the story directly. You've probably seen online claims suggesting that Carrington threatened Cunningham online. That's a serious allegation. But based on the credible reporting available right now, I wouldn't present that as an established fact. What has been clearly reported is Carrington's controversial social media statement following the ejection. That's documented. But a direct threat toward Cunningham is a different claim, and I couldn't verify reliable reporting establishing that Carrington made such a threat. This distinction matters because once a story involves words like threatened, attacked, targeted, or hated, audiences naturally assume something much more serious happened. If there isn't evidence for it, repeating it as fact can turn commentary into misinformation. So for this story, we're sticking to what can actually be supported. And honestly, there's already more than enough drama without inventing anything. There's another major reason this incident exploded. Sophie Cunningham has become one of the WNBA's most discussed players away from the basketball court. Recently, Cunningham made strong public comments about transgender athletes competing in women's sports, and her comments generated significant attention, support, and criticism. That controversy has followed her into games, with protests and public demonstrations surrounding the issue, while the WNBA has already dealt with incidents connected to the broader debate. So when Carrington's foul happened, it didn't occur in a vacuum. People were already watching Cunningham, people already had opinions about her, and people already had opinions about Carrington. That's why one basketball play became something much larger. The same contact might have generated a few hours of sports debate under different circumstances, but instead it became another chapter in an ongoing cultural argument. This is the reality professional athletes have to deal with in 2026. The game doesn't end when the final whistle blows. The second players leave the court, millions of people online become unofficial commentators. Clips get reposted, Slow-motion videos appear, screenshots circulate, fans analyze body language, and people look for previous incidents. Suddenly, an event that lasted 2 seconds becomes a 24-hour debate. Some fans defended Carrington, others defended Cunningham, some criticized the officials, some criticized Carrington's post, and others brought up completely unrelated controversies involving both players. That's where these situations become dangerous for everyone involved, because once social media chooses a side, every new piece of information gets interpreted through that side. If you support Carrington, you see one thing. If you support Cunningham, you see something else. If you dislike one of the teams, you're probably seeing something completely different again. The basketball itself almost becomes secondary. Now let's ask the question everyone is asking. Was it a dirty foul? That's ultimately a judgment viewers can debate. But the officials made their judgment very clearly. They reviewed the play and determined that the contact met the standard for a flagrant 2. Cunningham was attempting a layup. Carrington made high contact from behind, and because the contact was considered unnecessary and excessive, the officials ejected her. Fever coach Stephanie White supported the decision. However, White also indicated that she didn't believe Carrington necessarily acted with malicious intent, and that distinction is important because dangerous contact and malicious intent are not always the same thing. A player can make a reckless or excessive play without sitting there thinking, I want to seriously hurt this person. Professional basketball moves extremely quickly. Players make split-second decisions, and sometimes those decisions are bad, overly aggressive, or result in serious consequences. That's why the rules exist. If there is one part of this entire situation that may follow Carrington longer than the foul itself, it could be the social media post. Why? Because the foul can be judged through basketball rules, while the post opens an entirely different debate. Once you publicly suggest that race influenced an officiating decision, you're making a serious accusation, and serious accusations require serious evidence. Without that evidence, people are going to challenge the claim. That's exactly what happened, and Cunningham rejected the idea. Fans began arguing, sports media picked it up, and the original foul suddenly became secondary to the conversation surrounding the post. This is the modern athlete's dilemma. You have a massive platform. You can respond instantly, but once you hit post, you don't control what happens next. Your words can become headlines, they can become clips, they can become arguments, and they can remain online long after the emotion that caused you to write them has disappeared. It's also important not to turn Cunningham into a perfect hero simply because she was on the receiving end of this particular foul. She's a competitive, professional athlete. She's had her own controversial moments, and her public comments have generated plenty of debate. She's also previously been involved in a high-profile flagrant foul situation herself. So if we're going to demand consistency from Carrington, we should demand consistency from everyone. The standard shouldn't be, my favorite player did it, so it was fine. The standard should be, was the action within the rules? And if it wasn't, the same standard should apply regardless of who committed the foul. That's how sports remain sports. And perhaps the most interesting part of this entire story isn't Carrington. It isn't Cunningham. It's the environment surrounding the WNBA right now. The league is more visible than ever. The players have larger platforms, the audience is bigger, and every controversy spreads instantly. That means players are no longer just competing against the opponent in front of them. They're competing under the microscope of millions of viewers. Every foul can become a debate. Every facial expression can become a meme. Every social media post can become national news, and every disagreement can become a cultural battle. That's a huge opportunity for the league, but it's also a huge responsibility. Because the more attention the WNBA receives, the more carefully players, coaches, officials, and fans have to handle these moments. Now the big question is, what happens to Carrington? The league could potentially review the incident and determine whether additional discipline is appropriate. But whatever happens officially, the social media debate isn't going away immediately. And that's because this isn't just about one foul anymore. It's about trust. Do players trust the officiating? Do fans believe the league applies rules consistently? Do athletes feel comfortable expressing their opinions publicly? And when an athlete believes they were treated unfairly, what's the right way to respond? Those questions don't have simple answers. The WNBA doesn't need these controversies to become personal. Competitive intensity is part of professional sports. Arguments happen, hard fouls happen, emotions happen, but there has to be a line, and that line should apply to everyone. Maybe the biggest lesson from this entire situation is actually very simple. You can be angry without making an accusation you can't prove. You can disagree with a referee. You can believe a call was unfair. You can defend yourself. You can even criticize the league. But once the argument becomes about race, discrimination, or intentional targeting, the standard of evidence needs to become much higher. And the same goes for fans. If you see a viral clip, don't immediately assume you know someone's intentions. You saw a moment. You didn't see inside their head. You don't know exactly what they were thinking, and you certainly shouldn't use a sports controversy as an excuse to attack another person online. That applies to Carrington supporters, it applies to Cunningham supporters, and it applies to everybody watching from the sidelines. So what really happened? DiJonai Carrington committed a high foul on Sophie Cunningham during a fast break opportunity. The officials reviewed the play and upgraded it to a flagrant 2. Carrington was ejected. Cunningham reacted angrily. Then Carrington posted the controversial white privilege message on social media. That post created an entirely new controversy. But claims that Carrington directly threatened Cunningham online should not be repeated as fact without reliable evidence. And that's an important distinction. Because this story is already dramatic enough. The real question isn't whether we can make the controversy sound even bigger. The real question is whether we can talk about it honestly. Basketball is supposed to be competitive. Players are supposed to be passionate. Fans are supposed to debate. But when the final buzzer sounds, there should still be room for accountability, respect, and perspective. And right now, that's exactly what this situation needs. Because Carrington and Cunningham will eventually move on to the next game. The fans will find another controversy. Another clip will go viral. Another argument will dominate social media. But the standard we use to judge these moments? That's what actually matters. So, what do you think? Was Carrington's flagrant 2 ejection justified? Was her social media response understandable frustration? Or did it make the situation worse? And should athletes be more careful about making serious accusations immediately after an emotional moment? Let us know what you think in the comments.